Come on. Everybody out.
Months after the inferno,
Jesus Christ!
Maui has an uphill climb to heal.
Somehow we have to get back,
To find responsibility.
This is the most easily proven utility wildfire case I've ever seen.
To prevent it from happening again.
Of course we wish we had more power lines underground. Of course we wish that we could anticipate how strong winds would have gotten here in the 2020s.
Now, hear from Hawaii's governor, a lawyer fighting to get victims what they deserve. And some of the countless heroes who saved lives and are part of the Army working on rebuilding paradise.
You don't even ask. You don't, how can I help? You just show up.
It was 3 months ago that this island paradise turned into a disaster zone as giant flames feasting on brittle fuel and under the force of strong winds pushed their way into the historic town of Lahaina, flattening much of the town and killing at least 99 people. Now it's a question of when and how to begin rebuilding. We asked Governor Josh Green about that, and we'll get to our conversation in a moment. But first, rebuilding wouldn't even be possible without the strength and optimism of the community here and the heroes who protected life and property as catastrophic fire spread. On a small patch of asphalt, surrounded by the scars of Lahaina's inferno, a raging party.
It's probably the best communication of love, of friendship, kindness.
Ava Valdez and her husband Miguel Valdez Resendez have run an event DJ business for years on Maui, but this gig is unlike anything they've done before.
They are just hoping and praying that things would look up for them.
Get better.
Here to lift spirits, while Jose Rojas Reyes and his team hand out free tacos to residents of the town ripped apart by an inferno that killed 99.
One of my workers, he lost everything and he's still going. He's very strong.
The music echoes through the skeletons of former homes. The smell of fresh tacos wafts among the carcasses of trees and cars. The last vestiges of a lively, historic town stopped in an instant that August afternoon.
There were stories being told by the first responders that I could only imagine.
Miley Masada was inland, watching fire consume ranches near the community of Kula. In charge of a 200-acre ranch and event center on the slope of Maui's Haleakala volcano, she watched as the flames forced animals and families to evacuate and quickly jumped into action.
We got a call at about 2:30 in the morning from a sister ranch, Haleakala Ranch, saying, hey, the fires are in our pastures. We need to evacuate our horses. So we said, no problem. Bring them down. We can house them in the pens. They brought about 3 trailer loads at the time within 45 minutes of the call.
The first of many.
It went on till 1:15 the next morning. We sheltered over 100 animals here within 24 hours.
As the fire spread toward more densely populated areas, her colleagues at Oski Rice Event Center started digging fire breaks.
We had several D9s, excavators, dozers, anything that could push dirt. And together, several of the construction companies and the ranches just pulled every hand that they could get. I want to say it was 6 miles long, the fire break, that prevented the fire from getting down into Kihei.
Soon, she began organizing supply depots for firefighters, making food for them and nearby families.
In the end, we prepared over 19,000 meals over that period of time that we were doing. And it was every day lunch and dinner. And no questions asked.
Hers is not an uncommon story on this island. When fires devoured parts of Maui, everyone became a first responder.
It's still emotional to talk about it because you don't even ask. You don't, how can I help? You just show up, whether you're showing up with bottles of water or a sandwich to feed them or a shovel or giving them gloves or a pair of rubber boots, whatever it was. People just showed up and they just jumped in.
Now, she's organizing fundraisers for Lahaina victims. A community in desperate need of help, be that of the financial kind or the spiritual.
Food, music, and drink. There'll always be people together. Somehow we have to get back, and we're back trying to help the community once again.
Life on Maui may never really be the same, but in some ways that may be an opportunity to make it better. In a moment, we sit down with Governor Josh Green to talk about what's next, and I ask him about the potential failures in the government's response in those early hours of the fires. On the other side of a short break, I'll ask him whether there could be any criminal charges as a result of an Attorney General investigation. Back here from Maui. It's not often that you have an opportunity to rebuild a historic town from scratch, but locals are quick to point out that's exactly what lays before them. Governor Josh Green has been involved in the process of recovering and rebuilding Lahaina since that fateful August night when flames ripped through. He's relatively new to his job still, but he was thrown right into the midst of a crisis from day one. Now, he says, there's an opportunity to not just rebuild Lahaina, but even make it better.
I was in the legislature for 14 years, and all the years until last year this time, I worked full-time as a physician also.
Hawaii Governor Josh Green isn't a stranger to crisis. Lieutenant Governor during COVID, he spearheaded the state's coordination with healthcare communities. Now, in his short tenure in the top job, he's seen an air ambulance crash, a volcanic eruption, and now one of the deadliest wildfires in U.S. history.
In the first couple weeks as governor, you sometimes look over your shoulder and you're waiting for someone else to make that decision until you realize it's you.
He's called these islands home for decades, but his story started 5 time zones away.
I'm a Pittsburgher before coming to Hawaii with the National Health Corps.
What was that a assignment that ended up being a lifetime, or were you drawn here?
I did love the idea of coming here, but it was a placement. It was a bit of public service, a 4-year commitment to the National Health Service, and after having 8,000 patients and caring for people, saw what they didn't have, which was access to drug treatment and trauma services. I do ER work mostly, and ran for office because I was worried about that.
He was just 8 months into his role as governor when a brush fire started under power lines on Maui's west side. It became the inferno that destroyed much of Lahaina and killed nearly 100 of his constituents.
In truth, very little is there. The fire was extremely hot. It reduced almost everything to ash or dust.
Oh, come on! There's a fire. Is there anybody else in here? No. Come on.
Ongoing investigations will pinpoint the exact cause of the fire. Official reports and litigation will assess blame. But what's been clear for months now is that many could have done more. From Hawaii's largest utility company to local and state leadership. In the years before the Lahaina fire, a Maui County Commission worked to assess how much danger wildfires posed to the island. A growing threat, they deemed it, and urged special attention to above-ground power lines.
Come with me!
Before the fires, forecasters had predicted gale-force winds from the outskirts of Hurricane Dora, which passed south of the islands. Strong winds aren't uncommon here. In fact, that 2021 report called them a regular occurrence.
Of course we wish we had more power lines underground. Of course we wish that we could anticipate how strong winds would have gotten here in the 2020s. That is important, and that's part of what we'll do going forward.
The fire that ultimately killed dozens in Lahaina started early on the morning of August 8th. By 10 a.m., the Maui County Fire Department had declared it contained, but at 3 p.m., they reported a flare-up.
Everybody's got to evacuate.
The winds kicked into high gear,
Jesus Christ!
and it was quickly
You gotta go!
consuming Lahaina.
The fire that had been extinguished, the embers went up into the air when the wind started gusting over 70 miles an hour. It happened very fast.
As police scoured the community for unevacuated residents,
Come out.
the sounds of panic and angry flames filled the air.
Come on. Everybody out. Let's go.
But the area's jarring emergency sirens stayed silent. Can people on the islands be confident that if ever there is a threat of a fire to their community, those sirens will sound?
They can now. The difference is this. When I first came to Hawaii in 2000, one of the lessons that they teach you, because I was living right down by the sea in Nalehu, in Ka'u, right down there, they always told us, if you hear a siren, it's because a tsunami is coming. It's a warning, and you have to go up Mauka, which is go up the mountain immediately. They were very worried that if the sirens were sounded, that people would have gone right up into the fire.
So no, people aren't being told that anymore, that if there's a siren, it's a tsunami?
No.
Okay.
So we convened, my team convened all the mayors and all of their emergency management teams, and we revisited the entirety of the siren system so that we could share with people, if you do hear a siren, it's going to mean a full evacuation.
Yeah. But 911 recordings also reflect confusion and lack of information among 911 operators.
We just can't get out. There's no way out.
Yes. Okay. They're working on the fire. All I can tell you is to get out of that area. They're working on it.
Hawaii's Attorney General is now investigating the state and county government response to the emergency. Do you think there's a possibility that criminal charges could come out of that investigation?
Anything is possible, but from what I've heard, I doubt it. I doubt it, because I don't think anyone acted in bad faith. There certainly was no malicious intent. There were failures, of course.
Now, the pressing concern for West Maui residents is housing the displaced.
You know, within 2 weeks, we got everyone out of the conjugate shelters, which was, you know, like big gymnasiums, that kind of thing. But living in a hotel forever is not, you know, not a solution. So we're moving people into longer term rentals. We may lean more heavily into asking people who do like Airbnb, short-term rentals, to offer them for 18 months, but we'll still have to build. And I just came from a groundbreaking, but even those houses are probably 15 months out from being available.
And there were reports early on of developers lowballing families like crazy.
Yeah.
That has stopped, it sounds like?
Yeah, because we threatened them. And so I changed the statute immediately to create it a misdemeanor for any approach that anyone made, up to a year in jail and $5,000 per solicitation.
The day before we sat down with Governor Green, he announced the Maui Recovery Fund, an initiative modeled after the 9/11 Victims' Compensation Fund. Its aim is to award up to $1 million to families of the wildfire victims. It would also require them to drop any lawsuits against the county, the state, or Hawaii Electric.
It looks like we will have applications right after the new year. Then our expectation is in the second quarter, so April, May, June, we hope to get all of the claims, the settlements out to anyone who wants it. That's at least the 99 who lost their loved one, and also anyone who got injured.
There's several problems with the fund, but I want to be clear. I am applauding the governor for his effort. I don't think the fund has enough money in it.
Michael Watts is a Texas-based attorney who has represented victims of massive wildfires all over the country.
I think the amount of money that's being offered is only being offered to the death cases and the physical injury cases, and so it doesn't solve the problem of putting thousands of people back in their homes.
My intention is for those 561 families that owned and were living in their houses in Lahaina, I want to help them next, and then everybody else.
How much larger do you think any settlements could be out of your efforts compared to what people would get from the recovery fund?
Well, number one, the only people that can recover from the recovery fund are death cases and physical injury cases. But eventually, we'll be at a negotiating table with all of the people that caused this fire, and perhaps with state and federal government officials, and come up with an omnibus amount of money that should be many times the $150 million that's been put together so far. But again, that's a good start. But it's not, you know, it's not the end. You can't extinguish $10 billion in liabilities that your wildfire caused with $150 million. It's not enough money. Hawaiian Electric knew it had a problem with its pole grid. It told the Hawaii Public Utilities Commission that it was going to begin a process of pole replacement, and then deferred that process. So what they told the Public Utilities Commission they were going to do in 2018 still hadn't been done in 2023.
There are going to be a lot of lawyers who are going to tell their clients, though, you're not going to get as much money from the recovery fund as you would if we actually sued.
Definitely they'll get more money for those who lost their lives or were injured from the state. The settlement will definitely be richer than people would get from a personal injury settlement, in my opinion. Also, it will happen immediately. I mean, it's going to happen in early part of 2024, so there won't be a 3 or 4 or 5 year wait. So, look, it's totally optional. People should do whatever they feel they need.
When it comes to rebuilding, some community members here don't want to see the town as it was before the fire. They want to see it as it was before the land manipulation of the 19th and 20th centuries, the decades of agriculture that diverted streams and left West Maui dry and vulnerable. Is that something that your administration is seriously considering, is reintegrating streams that weren't there before the fires but were hundreds of years ago?
We are. So the word that is used is ahupua'a, and that means mountain to the sea, essentially. And I will say this, the pressure to build housing for people, to provide services for those who love to come to Hawaii is significant. And 80% of the entire economy has historically been tourism in the modern era. So if we make that change, we have to make it deliberately. It's very possible that Lahaina will become that beautiful place that is a reflection of tradition, that is capable of supporting fishing, of growing taro, of supporting hunting up the mountain. But those are large questions which will also have to be answered by those who own land.
But as climate change worsens extremes, Hawaii's vulnerability will only get more pronounced.
I'm not trying to cause a large conflict when I say that global warming is contributing to this, but it is, in my opinion, contributing at least to the dry nature of Hawaii. We have historic droughts that make it very difficult. And when you fly over the islands, you can see how dry it is. What I'm going to humbly ask is that we have a climate impact fee, so people pay a small amount, all of us, when we travel in and out of the state, and that impact fee goes towards fire mitigation, towards extra cost that is a result of having so many visitors.
How much money do you think could come out of that?
My expectation is about $150 million a year.
In the short term, what this tourism-dependent island needs is you. The governor is calling on mainland tourists to book that Hawaii-bound flight. That's a welcome call for many Maui residents, but not all. And those who want tourists back have important reminders.
Leave things how it was, if not better. That is really important, especially when we live in an area where resources are limited. You don't need to take a 30-minute bath, especially when water is an issue. It's what, the golden rule, do unto others as you want done unto you.
All over this island are signs of hope.
I think that there's a global consideration for Hawaii. People really do love our state. Everyone wraps their arms around us. It's just we do always also want people to consider us going forward and know that it takes time. But we in Hawaii will continue to welcome the world because it cares about us.
We're back with some final thoughts from Maui in a moment. What's striking about Maui is its diversity. Dramatic volcanic cliffs exist alongside luscious, soft sand and beautiful waves crashing against a luxurious jungle. The same is true of the people here. They can coexist in an environment where utter devastation is coupled with the optimism that better days are ahead. The ohana here, the family of community that exists on Maui, would be nothing without one another. Throughout our conversations reporting this story, that was stressed to us. The importance of coming together, of helping each other when in need, of spotting someone who needs a helping hand and offering it. That's true from your local sandwich shop to the governor's office. There's a real sense of community helping community. Maui will get through this. That's been very clear from day one here. The question is whether or not we're going to pay attention. Folks on the mainland, folks who don't call this place home but love to visit, love to look from afar. Are we going to learn the lessons of what the people here choose to do with this opportunity to rebuild and make their life and their community better than it was before? Disasters won't stop coming. especially as the climate changes, the atmosphere destabilizes. The question is, how will we choose to respond to each one? James Packard, Scripps News, Maui.